My phone is blowing up. We do have a daughter. Anyway, so, all right. What I want to do is go to that last section, compliance management system. And this is a near and dear to me, I guess, training specifically is what I want to talk about. But it seems like that in this last year of COVID, I mean, obviously there's some technology. We can all meet through things like this with Zoom and stuff. But I'm very concerned about the deterioration of quality training. And I like to say it this way: taking care of my health is very important, but it's not urgent. I don't have to exercise every day. In fact, I don't have to brush my teeth every day. And then that sounds a little strange, right? You might go, ugh, but you can get by with that for a while. But it's very important that we maintain those types of things. And I liken training to that. Training is not urgent, but it's important. Life, estate planning, health, those kinds of things. And what I've seen since the pandemic hit in the mid-March was that training became kind of the second backseat issue that said, we've got to take care of these borrowers that are unemployed all of a sudden. We had a refinancing boom and maybe another one that has hit here. We've had PPP wave 1, wave 2, now wave 3, right? There's been all sorts of urgencies that have taken priority in the front seat. And I'm just hearing from some of our clients about things that, training isn't quite there where it should be. Now, we can supplement that. We can do Zoom and things like this. We can do webinars. We can do computer-based training. And those are all great avenues, but they're not the ultimate answer to everything. And so I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here about we need to mix up training, and we've got to find ways to deliver training that is relevant, that is exciting, that is interesting, that is pertaining, that adds credibility, et cetera. What we want to be careful of is checking a box. And I'm hearing from some clients that they've done some, and I don't want to dog any types of computer-based things like that, but that people attended that and we can check the box. And I always give this analogy, maybe many of you have heard this many times, but it's my job to make sure that my wife knows that I love her. And so every morning I wake up and I say, babe, I love you. And then I grab that notepad and I check that mark off my nightstand, off the notepad. I mean, obviously missing the boat if that's how I'm doing it. But I did the training. I told her I loved her. That's good enough. And it's not, right? So what we're finding is that people that are 100% computer-based training, that the attentive and retentiveness is really dropping down. And some interviewings and things like that we've done, or some exam results that we're seeing, is that things are deteriorating. And so I'm going to challenge all of you that you've got to look at this pandemic is not going away any sooner than we thought. And in fact, taking much longer than we thought. And we've got to be thinking outside the box. How can we get people engaged? So I actually pulled up probably one of the most formalized things about training comes out of the BSA exam manual, the FFIEC's BSA exam manual. I'm just going to read you. I would bet that 99 out of 100 people would say it requires annual training. You won't find that wording. It says that training should be tailored. We should receive periodic training. Training for appropriate purpose analysis needs to incorporate the current developments and changes to regulatory requirements. You document your training to maintain documentation. Those are the keys. The idea is that we have to know how to do our job. Now, help me out here, team. I'm going to ask you a little bit. Safe Act, identity theft. There are some things that mention annual. Help me out here off the top of my head. I'm searching.
Yeah, I believe Safe Act is an annual thing. I'd have to go verify for sure, but I believe it's an annual thing.
Yeah, it is.
And that's the exception, though, right? That says you have to do that. Everybody needs to be trained to do their job, obviously. So before, when I hire somebody brand new, I can't put them on the teller line or in the loans or whatever until they know how to do their job. And what do we say normally? It's baptism by fire. And so we say, come along with us and we're going to show you how we do it. And then we'll have you do it. And then we'll let you do it on your own. And so that kind of training happens. But this more classroom, theoretical, whatabouts, those kinds of things is what I'm getting at. I'm not suggesting you don't do annual training. But if you're doing annual training to check a box, go back to the analogy that I tell my wife I love her and I mark that off. That's missing the boat. Okay. What we want is training to be with credibility. We want it to be interesting. And I'm a big advocate that if I had a training program that said, here's all the people that need to take the training and here's all the training they have to take, and I'm going to have this grid, that I would issue some type of quizzes possibly for repeat people, if you will. In other words, you've went through this before in the past. If you can get a 90% on this test, you're trained. Now, that brings up a question, and I'm willing to dialogue here with some of you. How good is my quiz, right? I mean, that might be something examiners then attack. But just to make people go through training again and again and again takes away credibility from you. It becomes mundane. It becomes something that a lot of them will either knock it all out at the beginning of the year and then they won't touch it, or they wait till the end of the year and they knock them all out, right? And and that's, again, checking the box. So I want you to think about ways that you can incorporate, and I bet most of you do lots of good training. You maybe just aren't documenting it, or you aren't getting credit for those type of things. So I'm going to go back to the quiz. You could Google some. We've got Q&As, things like that. You could, any webinars that we've had, take the Q&As that we send you at the end and use those and quiz your people that way. And if people can pass that test, then I would say, hey, Diane, you don't have to sit through this training this year because you're obviously at a knowledge level that says it's a waste of your time. You're trained. Now, again, safe act, got to have an annual training, that kind of thing. But I think that's a challenge to take on, to say, if my people are trained, I'm not going to waste their time. And that adds credibility back to you. So make sure that you've got good quizzes if you're going to do that. Make sure that they know what they're really doing. But this whole computer-based of next, and I just retake the test and retake the test and retake the test until I pass isn't working. And that's what we're seeing. And I'm really concerned about it, that we're dumbing down some of these types of things. But again, we also have probably a fallacy that says I have to do annual training on everything. And that's not true. Again, Safe Act would be the one that says you do have to have annual training. So periodic training to make sure that people are kept up on current developments and changes. That's really what every regulation says. So training has been near and dear to all of us. I mean, that's what we really feel like we are as a company. We do reviews so that we can make sure that you're trained, and it's always the crutch of everything. So if this is something that you want to discuss more, I would love to discuss that with you. So